Dinner's out of sight. It isn't easy living in the White House, and apparently it's not easy guarding the people who live there either. A Secret Service agent from the Clinton days is breaking the traditional code of silence. He's talking about his days guarding several first families. But does he really think Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is mean? He sets the record straight with Paul Boyd.
This is the way the movies portray a Secret Service agent. Clint Eastwood as a steely-eyed guardian in the line of fire. Well, this guy is the real thing. Dan Emmett spent 21 years in the Secret Service, protecting President Bill Clinton, President George Bush, and President George W. Bush. Now he's giving an unprecedented look at the most elite group of bodyguards on Earth.
Driving the president, flying on board Air Force One, running with the president. These are things that had never been written about, and I wanted to break some new ground.
Emmett's just written a controversial book called Within Arm's Length. He says in the early days after Bill and Hillary Clinton moved into the White House, the young and inexperienced White House staff were disrespectful to agents. Many viewed the Secret Service as the hired help, he writes.
There was some resentment there.
One newspaper reporting on the book says Hillary is portrayed as being aloof with agents and, quote, never said thank you to agents, unlike her husband Bill and their daughter. But Emmett disputes that.
The book is quoted that Hillary never said thank you, unlike her husband or daughter.
That is not in the book.
Okay.
That is absolutely not in the book.
Emmett does write about the time he was driving President Clinton, Hillary, and daughter Chelsea in the Beast, the heavily armored presidential limo. Dropping the family at the White House, he writes, I heard President Clinton and Chelsea saying thank you, which I later discovered was always their habit. Hillary exited in silence. I replied, my pleasure. But Emmett insists there is no implied criticism of Hillary.
The fact that she didn't say thank you, that didn't bother me in the least. We were not there to be their best friends. We were there to protect them.
With all due respect, though, Dan, it sounds a little bit like after the book's published, you're trying to have it a bit both ways, where you want the book to have a little bit of punch and a little bit of zest, and now you're maybe backing off it a little bit because you don't want to offend anybody.
No, absolutely not. I simply want to be quoted correctly. The Clintons treated the Secret Service very well. I have absolutely nothing but admiration and respect for that family.
One of Emmett's biggest security nightmares was President Clinton's obsession with jogging on the streets of D.C.
You're taking a sitting president into morning rush hour, Washington, D.C. You have absolutely no idea who is out there and who's waiting.
Emmett's book is ruffling feathers in the corridors of power. A Secret Service spokesman says, we stress the importance of not sharing anecdotes about the personal, private moments of the protectees.
What do you say to people who believe this book is a breach of trust? You're the Secret Service. You're not supposed to be telling these stories.
I would say that it's not. There's not one thing in there that compromises operational security.
Emmett was a Marine Corps captain. He served 21 years in the Secret Service. And when we come back...
Welcome back. Our next guest was just 8 years old when President Kennedy was assassinated. From that point on, he dreamed of one day becoming a Secret Service agent, and that dream came true for him. Here he is protecting President Clinton, and now he's retired from the agency and has written a provocative new book on what it's like to protect presidents. Former Secret Service agent Dan Emmett is the author of this book, Within Arm's Length, and he joins us this morning. Dan, nice to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Clayton. Good morning.
Nice to see you. You say there's been some controversy surrounding the Clinton aspect of this book, and you want to clear the air about it. You say you've been misquoted, or some of this has been taken out of context. Explain.
Well, not really misquoted so much as just merely the fact that the book is 226 pages long. And out of those 226 pages, there is not one page in that book that is derogatory towards the Clintons or any other president that I protected. I do come down a little hard on his junior staff, but that's not synonymous with President Clinton.
And I guess the idea was that this is sort of a tell-all book. Is that somehow unbecoming of a Secret Service agent? What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, yeah, thank you for the question, because it is not a tell-all book. The book is a written account of my 21-year career in the Secret Service. Now, it's not possible to tell your story without speaking about the people you protect to a degree. The stories, though, the anecdotes are very general in nature, and there's nothing in it that would be embarrassing to anyone that I protected.
I'll read this quote to you from the Secret Service. The spokesman says, we do stress to all of our employees the importance of not sharing anecdotes about the personal, private moments of the protectees. it causes concern because we don't want to erode the trust that we have with our protectees. So what do you think that the Secret Service thinks about you having written this book?
Well, no one from the Secret Service has contacted me since the book has been released. I did send a copy to Director Mark Sullivan, who's a friend of mine, but I would remind the Secret Service and everyone that I'm no longer an employee of the Secret Service. I'm a private citizen.
Right.
But I took great pains in the book not to compromise national security, sources and methods, or the privacy of those that I did protect.
When all those candidates out there, or when they become president, are walking along the rope lines, obviously all eyes are on those individuals, but for you, there's dangers lurking around every corner. What's the most dangerous thing you faced as a Secret Service agent?
Well, in my personal career, probably taking the president for his morning runs through downtown Washington. And that is a part of the book that I speak extensively about. It was very interesting, very exciting every morning, going into downtown Washington, running with the sitting president, and never really knowing who was out there.
How do you prepare for that? I know when I would cover President George W. Bush on campaign stops years ago when I was a political reporter, I'd go into town, Secret Service agents were there days ahead of time, making sure that every angle of a building was covered, especially if the president was going to be out on the street, but, you know, speaking to large crowds. You're jogging that morning. How much prep time do you need?
Well, we had no prep time, really. We would know if he was going to run in the mornings when the elevator doors would open and he would emerge from the elevator. If he was dressed in his business suit, then we knew he was not going to run. If he was dressed in his jogging attire, then we knew we were going for the run that day. We had several pre-designated sites, and we would select a different one every day. We tried to mix them up as best we could. But generally speaking, we didn't know if he was going until just the last minute.
You talk about in the book, you said it's something else that was an example taken out of context in your book, was how you described the junior staffers in the Clinton White House. You described them, that they were arrogant and rude, and you say, yes, you said that, but it was taken out of context. How?
Well, only in the sense that there's another part to that chapter, which is the fact that over time, the Clintons' junior staff and the Secret Service did begin to work very well together. I was quoted in the book, and excerpts from the book were printed that only showed the first part of that chapter, which was the fact that we did have a lot of trouble with them in the beginning, but not so much later on.
There's one final question I have to ask, because when I was out there covering this, I was fascinated to walk up to a Secret Service agent because I saw that he was a Secret Service agent. I was like, I just wanted to get close to see what they were doing, and he would just turn away from me. He saw me, kind of just wanted to turn away, and he walked the other way. Are you taught to just, someone sees you're a Secret Service agent, walk away?
No, not really. Although we do, when we're working, we try not to engage in conversations with anyone because it distracts us from the mission at hand, which, of course, is watching the crowd and trying to take care of the protectee.
Maybe this guy just didn't like me. That's quite possible. It's possible. Dan,
Maybe
yeah,
not.
exactly. That happens a lot around here. Dan Emmett, the book is Within Arm's Length. I'm always fascinated about what you guys do, putting your lives on the line for our sitting presidents. It's available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. Dan, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Up next, she's fed up with the government after losing her...
Where they go? What's it like to work that closely with the most powerful man in the world? My next guest protected 3 U.S. presidents. He's the author of Within Arm's Length, The Extraordinary Life and Career of a Special Agent in the United States Secret Service, Dan Emmett. So Dan, Within Arm's Length, there are many Secret Service agents that don't get involved with protecting the president. I mean, isn't the function of the Secret Service is about counterfeit money and some of those sorts of things?
Well, the Secret Service has 2 missions. The investigative mission, which is, as you say, investigating counterfeit currency type situations, bank fraud, financial crimes. But the other side of the house is protection. And the Secret Service, of course, not only protects the president and his family, but the vice president, his family, major presidential candidates, visiting foreign heads of state, and anyone else that the president so designates.
Well, and then when I've been in Washington where you see Secretary of State, you see the Speaker of the House, you see, they all have a bunch of security too. Those are not Secret Service.
They are not Secret Service. The people up on the Hill, they are protected by the Capitol Police. And Secretary of State Clinton, she could be protected by Secret Service. Being a former First Lady, she raised that for life. But currently the State Department is tasked with protecting her because she's the Secretary of State.
Gotcha. So this book, and by the way, there was an earlier article that we were just talking about before we went on the air here, that you think maybe distorts this book, that maybe it's an anti-Hillary book.
That's correct. An article came out. I did about a 20-minute telephone interview, and the end result of that was a very, very unfair article, I felt, totally taken out of context. It made it appear that the book is not about nothing but the Clintons, and that I'm bashing the Clintons, that I'm anti-Hillary. I'd just like to say right now that's not the case. Hillary Clinton was a protectee and is a protectee of the U.S. Secret Service, and she was a good protectee, fine person, and a good first lady. Well, it was totally taken out of context.
The article was that Hillary was basically an elitist snob, and so. But at the same time, you've served 3 sitting presidents.
Correct. Bush 41, Clinton, and then 43.
So all these people have different personalities.
Right.
And I mean, that's not your job, is to be their friend.
Absolutely correct. So the Secret Service is not there to be the friend of the president or any other protectee. We're there to protect their lives, and in the case of the president, to protect the office of the presidency.
But everybody wants to be a fly on the wall. You guys are. So you carry a lot of things that are private to the White House with you.
We do, and of course any agent, not just myself, but any agent is exposed to those types of things. But in this book, Within Arm's Length, I don't discuss any personal issues with any protectee that I ever had the honor of protecting.
Why did you write the book?
I wrote the book actually to put some of the rumors and innuendos and falsehoods about the Secret Service to rest, and also to provide the reader with a good idea of what it was like to be a working level agent from the application process all the way through retirement. The Clintons actually play a very small part in the book. A great deal of the book is taken up with my early life, my military experience, my early career, as well as the presidents that I helped protect.
Well, this book then is about from your start in 1983 all the way through?
All the way through 2004, 21 years, as well as some of the early things that happened in my life that led me to the Secret Service.
Why'd you get in there? What'd you do? What was it that made you want to be a Secret Service agent?
Well, originally,
or did you just kind of stumble into it?
No, I certainly didn't stumble into it. It was quite by design from the time I was 8 years old.
Really?
Due to the assassination of President Kennedy. I made my mind up at that point in life after seeing the photograph of Agent Clint Hill on the back of the limo, that being a Secret Service agent is what I wanted, and that was my career ambition in life. And 21 years later, I was lucky enough to get to do that.
What do you guys go through when President Reagan was shot? There were Secret Service agents all around. It was a typical scene, lots of people, lots of cheering, the president not wanting to be out there and waving. There's no way to protect the president 1,000%.
That's correct. You can only minimize the risk. You can never 100% assure anything.
You get rid of presidents running around in convertibles like President Kennedy was, for
Those days are
example.
gone.
Yeah.
You'll not see that again.
Yeah. How do you get to be chosen? And I presume it is a competitive thing within the service.
It is. Not all agents are selected. Many more want to go than are selected. The agents that are selected for the presidential detail are primarily the ones that do the best in the field, because that's where you start. Agents begin their careers in a field office. Like I did 3 years, for example, here in New York. I did 3 years in the Charlotte field office. So I had 6 years of field time. During that time, it's sort of your tryout for the detail. That's where you establish your work ethic, your intelligence level, your proficiency with weapons, and your desire to do the job. Agents at the end of their field time, their initial field time, if they want to go to PPD and they have proven themselves to be worthy of trust and confidence, which is the agency motto, then they can be selected to go at that time.
What was the biggest time you just held your breath because the president wanted to do something and you went, oh no, please, no?
Well, I think with every agent those things occur. In the case of President Clinton, and this has been misrepresented also in other articles, the most dangerous thing we did with him was take him running outside the confines of the White House.
Well, when he was first in the White House, he used to go out all the time, and then the joke was he would stop at McDonald's and do whatever he was going to do.
That was when he was candidate Clinton more though than once.
Yeah, but he didn't remember his first month. He didn't like that confined the White House.
Oh, no, we ran frequently through Washington, D.C. morning rush hour. That was the norm. And that was by far the most dangerous thing that we ever
Why?
did.
Because, I mean, if I know that the president's going to be appearing and giving a speech over at the XYZ hotel, then I can plot whatever I want to do. But some random, all of a sudden, there goes the president running in the morning without any notice of where he's going or when he's going.
That was
Doesn't that leave that less of a risk?
That was somewhat the problem, though, because we had become predictable. We did it about 3 to 4 mornings a week. Our routes were generally the same. There are only so many places you could go.
There you go.
So we were predictable.
That makes sense. Yeah, the unpredictable, though, it seems like, that's okay. Go do something different that nobody knows is going to happen.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, listen, the book is great. Dan Emmett, I'm always fascinated by the Secret Service. You guys run a great shop.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Happy on your show.
You bet. Awesome. Still ahead, one economic forecaster says not only is the economy going to get a...
Well, his job was to protect the president, 3 of them actually. Now one former Secret Service agent is taking us behind the scenes with a look at one of the most important and secretive jobs in the country. Former agent Dan Emmett is also the author of a new book, Within Arm's Length, The Extraordinary Life and Career of a Special Agent in the United States Secret Service. He joins us live. Dan, thank you so much for coming in and for your service as a Marine and as an agent to this country. This has got to be a fascinating look inside for those of us who wonder what it's really like. What are some of the myths and misconceptions that you hope to set straight in this book?
Well, a lot of the myths about the Secret Service center around exactly what it does. The Secret Service is constantly confused with the CIA, with the FBI, and practically every other government agency in America. The Secret Service is its own entity. It's its own organization that has a dual mission of protecting the president and others, as well as investigative.
And you mentioned that you were very much struck as a young child by the assassination of John F. Kennedy and of the agents that were around him trying to help him at the time.
Absolutely. I was 8 years old when President Kennedy was assassinated, and I think everyone remembers where they were that day if they were old enough to have a memory. I remember quite well the photograph of Agent Clint Hill on the back of the limousine doing his best to protect the President and Mrs. Kennedy. I recall asking my father who the man was and what he was doing, and when Dad explained it to me, I said, gosh, you know, that sounds like a really interesting job, something I might like to do someday.
So what does it take? I mean, to step up and say, you know, I do want to protect the president and be probably one of the most dangerous jobs potentially in the world. What does it take to do that?
Well, in terms of willingness, more than anything, you have to be willing to do it. It's a life of sacrifice, long hours, little sleep, a lot of jet lag, missing food, water, nutrition, basically. You take very dedicated people and you train them and train them and train them until they are up to the task. And when people first come into the Secret Service, they don't start out protecting the president. They start out in the field office. That's really your tryout for the detail. And if you do well there, then perhaps you'll go to the presidential detail one day. But, we find that the best protection agents are the best investigative agents.
Well, I found it fascinating, too, that your wife is also a retired agent, and you share part of your story about meeting on the job and about experiences you both had in the book as well.
That's correct. My wife, Donnell, was also an agent for 21 years. She retired as an assistant special agent in charge. We met when I was assigned to the New York field office back in the late 80s, and she had come out to New York on assignment, and that's where we met.
Well, I know that you protected 3 different presidents, and you say it's never political, it's just about protecting that individual. So we thank you for your service as a Marine and as an agent, your wife's as well, and we wish you all the best with this fascinating new book.
Thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Dan. All right, catching a wave is more than just for fun for some people. Next, a wonderful story about what the Navy